Okay, thank you. Evening members, there are 3 items on our agenda this evening. Firstly, are there any apologies for absence?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillors Brown and Emma Callaghan.
Thank you. Members, are there any declarations of interest apart from the County Council, which we will take en bloc? Any others? No, thank you. Agenda item number 3, key decision on local government reorganisation for Essex. Before introducing this item, I'm going to ask the monitoring officer to give a brief overview as to what we are all doing here.
Thank you, Chair. So we are, the decision is here tonight. I just want to make clear that this isn't a call-in of the decision that was before Cabinet on the 19th of September. This is a different decision. This decision is being taken under special urgency. The enclosure attached to enclosure 1 explains special urgency, and it has been exempt from call-in. The urgency was necessary as the letter and business case have to be submitted tomorrow.
Thank you. Members will be aware that the government has set us a target, as has just been said, of September the 26th to submit the business proposals for local government reorganisation across Essex. I think this is about the 17th meeting we've had in the last year explaining local government reorganisation and where we're up to with this. Members have had an opportunity, overview and scrutiny, most recently to go through the business case that was before us. We had a in-depth training exercise for members in this room where more than 3/4 of members turned up for that in-depth briefing on the business case for the unitary authorities, and we have also seen all 15 councils now, as of tonight, across Essex, take this to their full councils or to their cabinets or to their scrutiny committees, whatever they have chosen to do. Here in Basildon, we chose to take it to all of them to give everybody the opportunity to have a look at all of the documents before them, and the recommendations before you will be familiar to Cabinet members. So we're going to open this up for questions. Does any leader of an opposition group have any questions? Councillor Brockman.
Thanks, Councillor Callaghan. Why was it that there was a petition started a few weeks ago to get Wickford and Billericay away from Basildon? Why was it taken down and stopped? Do you have any information on that? Is it anything to do with the council, or was it done by the people that started it, please?
Thank you. Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Chairman. 2 questions from me. Just to put it into context, obviously, Cabinet took the decision, just so I'm clear, so that my questions are valid. Cabinet take the decision after Thursday's council meeting. The decision isn't exempt from call-in. We as the opposition, we do our jobs and we call it in on valid grounds. You're right to saying the call-in isn't valid, and then a few hours later we get an email telling us you're calling an emergency Cabinet debate to rerun the decision, this time with it exempt from call-in, making it quite obvious that the grounds for the call-in were there, and you're now seeking to circumvent the process. So my questions, assuming that's right, are how can the public possibly have confidence that the most important decision this council has made for 50 years, and indeed will ever make, how can they have confidence in that decision when you can't even get the paperwork right? And how can we take on 1.8 billion of Thurrock's debt without any debate at full council, and now you won't even allow it to be scrutinised, despite there being clear grounds to do so?
Thank you. Councillor Genet.
Thank you very much, Chair. Will the Labour administration be reviewing the conduct by Councillor McGurran from the previous council meeting in regards to...
Okay, thank you very much.
Which means we've had to repeat this LGR vote again without
If you carry on, you're out.
I'm just simply
asking a question. If you carry on, you're out. Behave yourself in this council chamber.
This
right?
is a
No,
question
you behave
regarding
yourself.
the council
If you have a
meeting.
question,
That is the
now
question.
listen to what I'm about to say. Just go 10 seconds without trying to interrupt. If you have a valid question about the report that is in front of you, not about a process or a meeting, but about the report that is in front of you, if you have a valid question, you can ask it in one sentence.
Fine. Will the Labour administration be reviewing the conduct by Councillor McGurran
Okay, so you
from
can't
the
answer
previous
it.
council meeting? Which means we've had to repeat the LGR vote again without full debate.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. You are incapable of behaving like a councillor. That is so obvious, right? And I'm going to rip you apart in a minute. Let's deal with these questions in total.
Did you
I
just say
don't
you
know
was going
anything.
to rip me apart?
I am going to rip you apart in a minute.
Thank you very much for
There you
confirming
go.
exactly your intentions
Absolutely.
in this meeting.
I am
Thank
going
you.
to take you and your arguments apart.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Brockman, you actually have asked a decent, plausible, credible question. And the answer to that is I have no idea what you're talking about. So we have not, as an administration, taken down any petitions. I'm not aware of the petition. I understand that there was one that was doing the rounds where people were asking for Billericay and Wickford to be moved out towards Chelmsford or anywhere else. And I think my argument that I made back to other councillors who made representations to me during that period was that if you wanted to make your feelings known in the consultation that was run, do it. And we had the highest response rate of any council area anywhere in Essex where people did make their views clear on that. In terms of a threshold to come to full council, I believe, though this was a decision for the mayor, that the reason why it couldn't be debated was because it didn't meet the number of people who live in the borough. So there were a number of people signing the petition who were out of borough, who may or may not have been supportive of that particular position, but they were out of the borough and therefore it didn't meet the constitutional requirements for a debate. That's what I'm led to believe. In terms of where they will have their say going forward, there is going to be a further consultation from the government. So tomorrow we will submit the business cases and then immediately after the government will launch a consultation on all 4 of those business cases where again people will have the opportunity to express their opinions. I have said it before, there is not a single political party anywhere in Essex that has advocated for Billericay and for Wickford to be out of this Basildon borough. So the Tory-led Essex County Council, the Tory-led Rochford Council, they have put forward proposals that keep Wickford and Billericay in the Basildon borough. So what I would urge your residents to do if they continue to hold that position is during the consultation make that known. Because as I've always said throughout this whole period, we won't make the decision as a council or any councillor will make that decision. It will be for a minister to decide. And they have said that they may slice and dice the different polling districts and boundaries. So it's not yet beyond the realms of possibility that they might choose to use the 127 as a line if they go down a certain route as well. So although it's not in the business cases and although it didn't meet the threshold for a debate, I would still encourage your residents to take part in that consultation and to make their views known to the Minister when we get to it. Let's take Councillors Barnes and Genet together here, shall we? Let's be clear about this. Well, they spend an awful lot of time together, so we might as well treat them as one. Let's be clear about it. It didn't meet call-in because the call-in wasn't valid. That's what was really obvious about the decision. He talks about scrutiny. I mean, you can make the sound effects as we go, all you like. You wouldn't know what a call-in was, so you don't know how it works. So you're therefore not in a position to opine on whether or not this council was or wasn't eligible for a call-in. So you didn't meet the criteria, and you yourself didn't even put the email in. I think it was Councillor Schrader who put it in, and he got it wrong. But in terms of the scrutiny function, this council went to the Overview and Scrutiny Commission. I sat there for an hour and 23 minutes in that seat 10 days or so ago, where I went through all of the business cases and the decisions. And do you know what? There wasn't a single question from a Conservative member. I had to prompt the Conservative member, the former leader, Councillor Baggott, to actually ask me a question about the report. Councillor Barnes sat there and he didn't have anything to say. I had to prompt them again to ask me a question. So this idea that they were going to scrutinise it, that they were going to come out with some earth-shattering arguments, it's for the birds, really. And when he talks about confidence in the decision, well, they haven't presented any reasonable arguments as to what the council has done, other than, at every single opportunity possible, present to this council and to members the opportunity to scrutinise this and to go through it. And let's just be clear about a couple of other things while we're at it. We took the business case, the 5 UA business case, to council in November last year. So well over a year ago into this process, we had taken it to this chamber and we had given all 42 members the opportunity to vote and opine on it. Councillor Barnes sat as the vice chair of overview and scrutiny for a year. Not once did he ask me to come to ONS to talk about local government reorganisation. There was not a single agenda item, despite the fact the council had taken a decision in the October-November, through to him leaving his post in May. There was not a single occasion where he asked for LGR to come forward. In fact, there hasn't been a single occasion since where any Conservative or opposition member has asked for local government reorganisation to go before the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I asked if I could attend the Overview and Scrutiny Committee last week so I could present the business cases to them, and the chair agreed to let me do it. So again, they've had ample opportunities to do it. Since that time, we have had 6 full council meetings in this chamber. Councillor Barnes has presented 1 motion in that time, and that was a debate that we had on the Thurrock debt position. And again, I made it clear in that meeting that there was not £1.8 billion worth of debt. He's had business case after business case presented. He clearly doesn't read anything, and that is, again, blindingly obvious, because in the business cases, it makes it clear that the Thurrock debt position by 2028 will be reduced down to 400 million. SIPFA, who is the regulator, well, it's a bit different, isn't it? You shake your head as if it's 1.8 billion is a bit different to 400 million, is it not? I mean, it's a substantial reduction in what you are trying to tell the public and scare the public. It comes down to an organisation or a system spending £4.5 billion a year across the county of Essex on local government on local government public services at this moment in time. 400 million is a vastly different sum of money to 1.8 billion, and yet you still come before the public and you mislead them with these untruths about where we are in terms of the Thurrock debt position. He doesn't talk about the fact that Thurrock has an outstanding children's service, that they have got services for their young people and their children that we could only dream of here, that his friend, Councillor Tony Ball, is presiding over an absolute disaster with SEND at this moment in time in our schools. And actually in Thurrock, they're doing a bloody good job at it. So that, well, you say that, but Essex County Council is the worst performing council in the country for EHCPs. And again, Thurrock is not in that position. But we don't hear from them. Look at the Freeport, £1 billion of business rate growth, not just business rate, growth over the course of the next few years. They don't talk about it. They don't talk about the prospect of a new town in the West Horndon area that would relieve pressure on the housing system and the housing numbers in parts of Billericay and other parts of Basildon. A massive opportunity for us here in southwest Essex. They don't talk about it because all they want to do is scaremonger, tell people that this is a terrible thing to do, that we shouldn't be going down the route of local government reorganisation. Outcomes are getting worse. Whether it's on education, skills, whether it's on infrastructure delivery, Essex is getting worse right now. But reform are against reform, and the Tories tell us we should keep everything as it is. In those 6 full council meetings that Councillor Barnes has had, how many questions has he tabled? How many questions has any of his members tabled at a full council meeting to ask me? They'll ask me about a logo or about Facebook Live, but they won't ask me about what he's just decided tonight and what he's just described as the most important decision we'll ever take. And he can't even bring himself to ask me a bloody question about it in a full council meeting, because his members are telling him, ask him about the logo, ask him about Facebook Live. Weak. Then he wants to turn up here tonight and grandstand. Wants to tell us all that he's the saviour of Basildon, that he's going to have a meeting here and he's going to save us from £1.8 billion of debt that doesn't exist. Can't even ask me a question. How many motions have been tabled at last week's full council meeting on it? None. Not a single motion on the order paper last week about local government reorganisation, about devolution. How many amendments were tabled before 4:30 last week on the day of full council about the local government reorganisation report? None. They weren't, because they would have been on the order paper. So there was not a single amendment, there wasn't a single motion, and there wasn't a single question. But we are led to believe tonight that the Conservative Party and Reform would have somehow managed to scrutinise this beyond belief, and they would have got ourselves into a stronger position. You are having a laugh. You have had so many opportunities over the course of the last 12, 13, 14 months to come into this chamber, to contribute, ask questions, table motions, write amendments, and you have not done it. And I'm not going to go into it right now as to why the full council meeting last week was called off and postponed, but we all know, and particularly the leader of the opposition knows, exactly why this meeting was postponed and called off last week. And I hope to God he has done something about it since last Thursday, but I'm not holding out much hope, because as we're seeing from his facial expression right now, and we're seeing from the way he's behaved in this meeting, he is weak, weak, weak. So if you don't mind, I'm not going to take any lectures at all from any of the opposition groups about this. We have been open, we have been transparent, we have asked people to scrutinise, we have asked people to come here and ask us questions, and they haven't done it. They haven't been able, for over a year, they haven't been able to do it. And I also think it's interesting as well, while we're at it. Well, I'm going to carry on because I got the floor and I've been asked some nonsense, so I'm going to carry on. We've also had a situation where I'm pretty sure Conservative county councillors were absent from their meeting at County Hall last week. There's lots of noise made about people being absent from meetings and how terrible it is if people are absent from meetings, not turning up at planning meetings because, I don't know, they're speaking at political party events on the same night as a planning meeting. Well, that's terrible, isn't it? But what about these people who bottle these votes on the, as he says, the biggest decision we'll take for 50 years, perhaps ever, as councillors? Where were those Conservative county councillors? No shows. Didn't show up for the meeting last week. They were in this chamber later on in the day, disrupting meetings, failing to sit in the same bloody seats. And again, let's just put this into perspective. The most important decision, we're told, by Councillor Barnes, and the reason why he couldn't have his say was because he refused to sit in the right bloody seat. That's how much he cared about straddling the people of this borough with £1.8 billion worth of debt. That's how much he cared that he was going to stop this and fight for the residents of Billericay, that he gave up his voice, he gave up his chance, because he didn't want to sit in the right bloody seat. But these are the saviours of Basildon politics. It's like being at the National Television Awards, isn't it? Pathetic. Does any member of the Cabinet want to add to my rant? Councillor Smith.
Thank you. If I can start with what Councillor Brockman raised, I think that's a legitimate concern because with my ward, fobbing is split, and that was because when they created these councils, there was the parish of Vange, which included the Basildon part of fobbing, and the fobbing part of Thurrock fobbing. And I understand that's the difference with Wickford and Runwell. One was the parish of Wickford, one was the old parish of Runwell. What I personally envisage, because we're not being picked at as a single county, I could very well be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, that the government might just go 3 or 5, whatever it is, fingers crossed to 5, and then get the Borough Boundary Commission to come in. The only case that I can cite was in '94, and there was a lot of anomalies. There was a part of the Beckentry estate in Redbridge, 2,000 homes, and they said it makes more sense to put the Beckentry estate all in one borough. Marks Gate, you know where the Moby Dick is on the A12, that was split between 2 authorities of Redbridge and Barking and Dagenham. They said it's a cut-off area, just put it all together in the same authority. So there is that potential there. And whether you get 3 or 5, God willing the 5, and Wickford and Billericay are still with us, then make that campaign for independence. But the person you really want to blame isn't the leader, isn't the government, was the man during the mad cow disease pandemic, John Gummer. He had this brief in '94. I saw the report. It's on the Local Government Boundary Commission website. There was the opportunity of everything in the borough south of the 127 with Thurrock being a new unitary council. But they bottled it, and you could have been free in the 90s. Maybe had one of those, too many of those mad cow burgers. Who knows? Who knows? But getting on to the comments made by the leader, I was at full council at Essex last week with Councillor McGowan. A third of the Conservative group was absent. Councillor Moore and Headley, representing Billericay, were not there. And we had 2 votes, 2 choices on the table. The Lib Dem amendment for 5 councils, or the Conservative County Councils policy of 3 councils. The choice was there, 3 or 5. And a third of the Conservative group wasn't there. I will speak favourably of one, Councillor Malcolm Buckley, who spoke about Wickford doing Wick's exit. Here's a take on Baz exit, Mr. Chairman. Wick exit. You can make it better. You can make it Wickfordite. Councillor Brockman, you'll do a far better job. It's your part of the world. And there was an option there. But I just think it's incredulous that we've come here tonight to do this when County's Cabinet last week done this, and there was no calling, none of this, none of that. You know, the councillors at Essex, as here, have had the chance through many processes to have their say. It was the final wrap-up last week. It went to a vote of the Cabinet, and it is for the government to balance that up. And to conclude, one thing I feel really strange about is that we keep hearing from the opposition, Thurrock bad, Thurrock bad, Thurrock bad. Well, if we got, God forbid, stuck with 3 authorities in Essex, not the 5, Mr. Chairman, am I right in saying, I know the answer to this question, that the leader of Essex County Council believes that Thurrock should be with Basildon? Yeah. Yes, we hear from the leader. So it's no good berating Thurrock when your own boss at Essex says that Thurrock should be with Basildon. The question here tonight, and no one's spoken about it, do we want to be stung with Southend, Castle Point and Rochford with a town hall, as Kevin Bentley wants the leader of Essex County Council in Southend? That's the question here tonight. And for me, the answer is no, and I'll repeat it again, that between Castle Point and Rochford, they've got to do upwards of 10,000 new homes. If we was all one council, they're not going to build them in Castle Point. They're not going to build them in Rochford. They're going to go round, look at Bowers Gifford, stick a few thousand there, Gloucester Park, Basildon Golf Course, you name it, south of the 127. We're just be a wall of concrete, nothing green, nowhere for the kids to play, no one to walk their dogs. Basildon was built as a new town to get people out of the slums of London and have a decent life. With the 3 authorities, it will end up making Basildon a slum where we save Castle Point and Rochford's neck from doing their fair duty on housing. That's what we should be talking about. Are we going to be Castle Point and Rochford's mugs? And for me, never. And to wrap up on this point, Canvey desperately needs a third road that Essex County Council has refused to fund. If we're twinned with, in the same council with Castle Point, our Billericay taxpayers are going to be well happy. Instead of paying to fix their roads, they're going to be paying towards Canvey's third road. What do you think, Mr. Chairman, at that point?
I'm not sure that the people of Billericay will ever be happy with anything I say, so, but we'll find out tomorrow at my next surgery. I think you raise a lot of very, very good points there, particularly around the housing and around the housing numbers. And I also think it's interesting that for the last 12 months, politicians from all political parties across Essex have come together to work really, really hard. And that's Labour, Conservative, Liberal Democrat, independent leaders of councils. When we've not been there, our subs have gone along for us to different meetings. And we've all come to the conclusion that we might end up at different points in this. We might end up at the 3, the 4 or the 5. But we've all tried to approach this in a really grown-up way, understanding that ultimately it won't be us that decides, it will be the government that decides. But having conversations with even the Conservative council leaders, they always regard the Conservatives here as embarrassing from their own parties. So they're always telling me what an embarrassment they are. And actually, what they've done here, being the only set of opposition councillors to, as you say, call in their decision or this decision, they've proven how embarrassing and immature they are. This is a decision that is complicated. This is a decision that requires grown-up politics. They are incapable of it. They have proven that tonight. So that it proves as well that in the implementation of local government reorganisation, we can't trust these guys to do it. And it's not just, I have to say, in their defence, it might not just be the Conservative group in Billericay and Wickford, because they don't have any councillors anymore in Basildon, Pitsea or Langdon. But also I'm seeing, or the comms team tell me, we're seeing the leader of Rochford increasingly embarrassing herself with comments that she's making on social media. We've omitted the Rochford 4 plan because there wasn't really a Rochford 4 plan. They spent months and months and months in Rochford telling us that they were coming up with a 4 that seemed to want to remove Southend Airport from Southend. But they didn't put any numbers or anything in it that proved it was in any way credible. But what they did do, those geniuses over at Rochford District Council, is they came up with a plan that still put Basildon with Thurrock. Essex County Council, Kevin Bentley, still came up with a plan that put Basildon with Thurrock. So in every scenario, unless you think Thurrock are the geniuses here who've come up with a scheme and a 4 model that no one else in Essex thinks will work, but some people over at Thurrock do, apparently, unless you're going to take that argument, which has got no political support and no financial evidence or support behind it at all, the 3 arguments that are going to be put to the government tomorrow, the 2 most credible ones being the 3 and the 5, where most of the work has been done, still puts Basildon with Thurrock. Now, I believe very passionately, not just that in the short term that is the right thing to do, I believe really passionately that we will create a bloody strong council for the people of South West Essex. That finally we will keep all £360 million of our council tax here in South Essex. That we won't be siphoning 80% of it off to Essex County Council for them to spend in Braintree, Malden and Epping Forest. I think when you combine their economy with our advanced manufacturing economy here, we rival any major northern UK city in terms of our economic power. And I think the reason why the Tories up in Chelmsford and Braintree and Epping are a little bit nervous right now is because they're looking at South West Essex going, that's where all the money is. That's where all the industry is. That's where the potential and the growth is. And we want a bit of that over here in the north because we've been leeching off of Basildon for decades, taking our money. Taking your money, I don't know if you pay council tax, but if you do, then, taking your money off of you. As far as I know, you live at home with your parents. So, but if you did move out and you did get a home, perhaps we're building one, you can get one of the ones we're building, you would then see 80% of your council tax every month going off to Essex County Council. Madness. And this is an opportunity to change it. Now, I'm positive about it. We're positive about it. We think this will work. Could you imagine going to stand for election in 18 months' time, telling the public that we're going to stand for election to a council we think's crocked? Standing to election for a council we think will never work, that will never be financially... Make me the leader of a council that's going to make... That's because it's so financially unsustainable, I want to lead it. They've no vision, they've no plan, they've got no view on what they want the future of local government to look like in Essex. And that's why they're never, ever going to get an opportunity to govern it. Because we're going to make sure that every single person knows that local government reorganisation is being unlocked by Labour, by the independent group, that we see the benefits of making sure your council tax stays here, that your youth services get funded here, that your adult social care gets improved here, that your highways and your potholes get filled in and improved here. And all they want to do is go, oh no, it's terrible. Oh no, it'll never work. Keep everything as it is now. Even though it's a mess, outcomes are declining and things are getting worse. And they've had so many opportunities. You can put your hand down, you don't get another question. They get so many opportunities to come here, to ask questions, to put motions, to go to full council, to amend things, to call in, to go to scrutiny. And they've never done it. And now we're 23 hours away from the deadline. And they've found their minerals. They've found their balls. They want to come and they want to fight. They want to call it in. They want to change things. And they want all of the people watching to believe. They want everything. They want to believe that we are somehow going to be saved by Andy Barnes. Not even his own group believe it. There you go. So, clip it up. Put it everywhere. Basildon will be saved by Andy Barnes and his no ideas. There you go. You can't clip it up because this is council resources and therefore that would fall foul of your Facebook Live. But there you go. Councillor Ferguson, you wanted to come in.
Thank you, Leader. I think, in fairness to the Leader of the Opposition, it has taken him a week to find his seat in the Council chamber, but we'll move on from that. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to talk about local government reform, and thank you actually for being able to actually turn our attentions back to the substance of the issue that we're actually meant to be talking about, which is the opportunities that this is here to be able to provide our residents. I also want to thank you for the open and transparent way in which the issue has been handled in this council over the last 12 months, from being able to debate it at full council last November, from the opportunities that you've instigated through being able to present overview and scrutiny, through the all-member briefing that was held a few weeks ago, to them being able to have overview and scrutiny, and then the meetings that we've had subsequently. There can be no shortage of information that's been provided to members about the reasons why we're doing this, the benefits of what local government reform is able to do and be able to bring to residents, and the opportunity that provides across the borough. But let's turn attention to the substance of local government reform. There can be no doubt that the two-tiered system of local government fundamentally does not work. You do not need to go on Facebook very often to realise that somebody poses a question, and I'm pleased that I'm getting some support for that comment, every time you go on Facebook, you see a resident posing a question on who is actually responsible for this footpath, who is responsible for this bin, who's responsible for that fence, and too often, people are not clear on who is responsible for the smallest little things. And then we get on to the deeper issues of adult social care and children's services. And for time and time again, Basildon has been forgotten about because of the two-tier system of local government that's failed our residents. Within my own brief of children and young people, 4 years ago, when we were trying to bring forward plans for a youth zone to be across the borough, the Basildon Tories were against it, the Billericay Tories were against it, and the Essex Tories, when they considered bringing forward a youth zone, Basildon wasn't even in the conversation as something they wanted to consider. They didn't see the need for investment for young people in Basildon right here. Local government reform gives us the opportunity to be able to take back control, for residents to be able to actually be involved in shaping the services that they depend on most, for this council to be able to have the authority that it needs to be able to listen, be able to carry out the decisions that our residents want, and be able to act out on the things that they value most. services that we depend on, our residents will have the opportunity for. And we talk about the detail, and we talk about the business case for how we've got to this decision. Announcements that have been made today, and your announcement earlier on, Leader, of £40 million investment in this borough over the next 10 years as a result of this government. Investment that has never happened in this borough before. The Leader of the Opposition is the only person that's looking down at £40 million worth of investment in this borough. 4 years ago, when I was, Councillor Barnes, when I was in your position as Leader of the Opposition in those ill-fated days, I asked the then Leader of the Council what conversations he'd had with government about levelling up funding. I asked 4 questions in 4 days, asking what levelling up investment was coming forward to this borough. I got absolute silence. I got no response because no conversations had taken place. What we've seen over the last 14 months is a Leader of the Council that's prepared to believe in Basildon, that is taking the fight for this council, that is standing up for our residents in government, that has today managed to secure £40 million investment in this borough over the next 10 years, supporting the most deprived wards that have been forgotten about for far too long. And we've seen that same level of detail being put forward in the business case that is going forward to government to give residents the local government reform that it deserves and giving this council and our residents the governments that they need going forward that can give them the services that they'll depend on. This is a report that I'm proud to support and will be supporting wholeheartedly tonight, Leader.
You're absolutely right, Councillor Ferguson, and I think there's also the other side of this. I'll allow you in there. I'm going to give full answers to everything because it's all about openness, transparency and all the rest of it. Today, the government have given Basildon Council £40 million. That is the single biggest investment in modern history of this council. I haven't seen any of it on Facebook yet from the leaders of all of the opposition, but I'm sure they'll be there talking about how wonderful I am for securing that £40 million. I'm sure I'll get the adulation that I can expect from their Facebook posts. And I'm also pretty sure I just heard in the middle of that contribution and meeting there, Councillor Genet indicate that he was backing the Callaghan model of local government reorganisation. So I think it's absolutely, the penny is dropping. People are starting to finally see it. And indeed, it has been called the Callaghan model by many of the other councils across Essex. It's for others to decide whether or not it should be called that and be noted in the history books as the Callaghan model. But if it is, it's a nice accolade to have. The opportunities are huge because let's just think about that £40 million. There is now the very real prospect that the youth zone in Basildon gets built. The youth zone that David Dadds, who I'm told wants to be a judge, David Dadds scuppered when he decided to disgrace the charity that wanted to build it here. When the Conservatives went round the streets of Basildon telling young people and their families that they didn't deserve and didn't need a youth zone. When on day one, when they took control of the council, even though it had planning permission, even though it had a consent, they rang up that charity and they told them, we're scrapping it, we don't want it. The worst act of social vandalism that any council has ever done in the last however many years in Basildon. Today, the people of Basildon know that we are going to build it and that the government is helping us to fund it. And crucially, why is that now possible? Because we, in the next 18 months, will be in charge of youth services. So the ongoing revenue cost to keeping a youth zone like that operational can be met by the fact that here in Basildon, all £170 million of the council tax that we collect will stay here, and we can use that to help fund the £400,000 a year ongoing revenue cost to keep it. The building won't cost us anything because the government are giving us the grant money to do it. And it's not just the youth zone. There are so many other things we may do for youth services. There are so many other things we may do in terms of improving the highways or the paths, getting ready for LGR when we become the highways authorities. The Chalverdon estate with the trees that are causing huge problems to residents at the moment with their pathways in their front rooms, the hedgerows that are causing issues in terms of antisocial behaviour. We now are getting ready for LGR. The government are backing us, giving us the money to get ready for it. And they just want to sit there going, oh, he spent 12 grand on a logo before we knew about LGR. It's so pathetic. While they're playing around with little FOIs to find 2 grand here and 5 grand there, we're getting £40 million into this borough to build the youth zones and to transform these services. Something I know Councillor McGeorge will be welcoming.
How could you not welcome £40 million into the borough? I mean, really, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to keep this quite brief because I'm quite aware that there's people trying to come in for another meeting. This did not spring out from nowhere. This has been going on for a very, very long time. There has been many, many council meetings where you can ask questions. There has been scrutiny meetings where you can ask questions. At what point, anywhere at the moment, is this two-tier system working? I've got school mums at school who have got issues with adult social care, having to traipse halfway across the county for meetings. They should be in borough, locally, where they can get to. I had my mum's next door neighbour. For anyone that knows, I'm currently living at mum's due to renovations. He knocked at the door to ask a question. He went, "You still on the council?" Yes. Why? Well, going up towards, because they live in Billericay, there's some trees growing in between some railings. That's highways. Oh, so that's not Basildon? No. I said, not at the moment. I said, it will be in a couple of years. Oh, right. I said, you do realise that 80% of your council tax goes up to county, don't you? He went, no. Where's that based then? Chelmsford. He just looked. He went, that's where all our money's going then. If we can see it, if our residents, as soon as we make them aware of what's happening, can see it, why can no one else? We need to bring the services to us. We need to be in control of what our residents want. We can fix what they need. We can run the services to a proper standard held locally. Why are people not agreeing with this? What is the issue?
Stockholm.
You are quite right. We know what the opposition groups are against. None of us have got a clue what they're for. And that's because last week they wouldn't sit in the right seats in the most important meeting that they claim in the history of Basildon Council. It was more important to disrupt the meeting. It was more important to play musical chairs in a meeting than it was to debate the most important issue, according to them, in the history of Basildon Council. Thankfully, for the residents that are watching, they will have seen the Cabinet meeting the week before when we took 24 items through the Cabinet, when we were getting on with the people's priorities, getting on with delivering. They will have seen the Cabinet meeting tonight. They will have heard those nonsense questions this evening, coming here tonight, not to talk about policy, not to talk about issues, not to give ideas about where they stand on things, but to try and have a cheap shot, another political cheap shot, because they've used their social media platforms to lie and get themselves into all sorts of trouble over the course of the last week as well. Good luck, my friend. The recommendations, Cabinet, are on the agenda before you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you to everybody watching.